Let's get to it. Let's talk to you about mic techniques. The common mistakes with every mix job that we get. If people are recording at home, the thing that makes our job so difficult isn't that we're necessarily bad at mixing, although that's subjective. Generally, it's because the way that songs have been recorded have just not helped and aided our process of mixing, and that's why you're not getting the results that you're expecting when you're expecting your vocals to come back sounding like Jason Derulo, Ariana Grande, Mahalia, people like this. Their vocals sound great because of some of these free, if not all of these free techniques that I'm going to teach you about in this video. So, hey guys, my name is George Holliday. I'm a producer and I work for Made on the Road here on a studio bus. It's really cool. We're traveling around all the time, so I'm regularly meeting and working with people online and in person from all around the world. In doing this, I'm regularly coming across the same kind of problems, and today I'm going to be touching on 3 things that I regularly see with people that are recording at home. So I hope this helps you with future recordings and hopefully getting that sound that you're wanting to have. And I'm going to be using things that you can just use at home. This is basic setup stuff. This isn't tens of thousands of pounds that you need to spend. It's just certain things that you need to consider to get that sound that you want. Okay, so tip number 1 is all about your recording environment. Most rooms have a room sound to them that is quite ugly and unattractive and really limits, in the mixing process and in the production process, it really limits what you can do. You can add reverbs and you can add room sounds, but it's really hard to remove those. So you want to have a really nice dry sound. You want to have a good sound to your highs and your lows. You don't want any resonant sound. Sometimes if you've got a guitar in the room or you've got a loose door or something that resonates when you shout, all of these sounds are being picked up by your microphone and can create quite a difficult environment to mix and get the vocal sounding really, really great. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. And as you can imagine, in the bus, we've had quite a lot to tackle with this kind of thing. Now, we're lucky, we don't have too many reflections, we don't have too much depth, there's not many ringing noises other than our acoustic guitar, which we obviously dampen during recording, but on the whole, it's quite a dead sound in here, as you can hear, which is great. To add to that, we were very lucky in having Aston Microphone send us this reflection shield. Now, this reflection shield dampens all of the extra sounds behind and around the microphone, and you absorb quite a lot when you're stood in front of it. So it, again, just adds an extra layer of limiting to any sounds that are reflecting in your room. This is a great way to do it. Obviously, Aston Microphones aren't the only people to make these. There are a bunch of other companies, but I personally love this one, and everyone I know that's bought one previously off the back of my recommendation absolutely loves it, so highly recommend that. You can get creative. If you don't want to buy anything, you can put pillows up, you can get into your wardrobe where you've got loads of clothes. Basically, lots of thick materials to stop reflections is a really, really good starting point for this. And if you shout into a microphone and record it or sing really loud near it, if you can hear any of the room sounds, then you want to keep adjusting until you can find the perfect place. I've used closets, I've used even bathrooms, like in a shower cubicle, hanging up duvets and things like that. I've used all sorts of setups previously, and it really, really helps. So that's your first starting point. Number 2 is to be really careful with headphones. Another really common problem with headphones is people have it too loud in their headphones, so it bleeds. You can hear the headphones in the microphone when people are singing. Now, the more that compression is added and various techniques to the mixing process and the production process, as those things get added, they bring out those background sounds. So again, same with your environment. As you add some of the plugins that naturally we do when we're mixing and producing, you're going to hear a lot more of those unwanted sounds that are going to be brought more to the forefront. And if you have a click going on in your headphones, the amount of tracks that we've had where you have click in your headphones and we can hear it and we can't get rid of it. There's no way to do it other than, I mean, there's a couple of techniques, but you can never truly get rid of them, and it's an absolute nightmare. And unfortunately, to get rid of it, you end up sacrificing some beautiful qualities of your vocal, which of course is not good. We don't want that. So there's a few different techniques. One is just generally having your headphones quieter. Do you need to have it as loud? Once you've lowered the volume in your headphones and left it for a few minutes, your brain and your ears naturally adapt anyway. So try having your, I mean, there's 2 benefits to that. You're saving your ears and you're also saving your mix and your recording. So you could also try using a different metronome sound. So rather than having the click, the beep, boop, 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 rather than having that, which is really difficult to remove from a mix, you can change it to a different sound like a shaker. Now, a shaker would be much easier to blend into a mix. So if you do really insist on having your headphones super loud, which I don't, because we also don't want to be hearing the music in your vocal chain, I would recommend trying something like a shaker. It's just generally easier to blend in and you won't notice it as much if that bleed does happen. And I guess the final bit of advice is maybe just to invest in some headphones that are kind of noise cancelling or just really good at not having any sound reflect out of the back of the headphones. That's probably the most important thing. So try a few of those things, just make sure you can't hear any of it, do some test recordings, just put your headphones on, hit record and don't say anything. And if you can hear your headphones to a point that it's bad, then you can just keep adjusting those things until you get it right. So the third and final thing is your distance to your microphone. There's different techniques for different types of sounds. Billie Eilish, for example, she is really close to her microphone, and that's why it sounds so close and personal. And sometimes you want that. If you've got a ballad or if you've got a really quiet song like folk music and you really want that intimacy, being really close to the microphone gets that sound really well. The only downside to that is you're going to hear mouth sounds, you're going to hear breaths. You might even hear some pops into your microphone if you don't have a pop shield there, which I also highly recommend. So be really careful with what you want from that vocal sound. If you want it really close and you're happy to have some mouth sounds, that's fine. But just make sure there's no whistles, make sure there's not a lot of that kind of horrible sound going on. Because again, it's really hard to remove those from the mix, especially once we've got compression there. So really take note and consider exactly what you want from being close to your microphone. Obviously the alternative to that is being quite far away from your microphone. Downside to being quite far away from your microphone is you're going to hear a lot more of those room sounds again. So it's going to make your vocal less focused and it's going to pick up a lot more of the unwanted sounds that potentially you're getting from your room. So that might be a big factor as to why you don't have that real crystal clear vocal that's really sitting on top of your production. A lot of people tend to do gang vocals really far back from the microphone. Now, when you see people do that, that's because they're in a really nicely sounding treated room, and it can work and it can sound really great. But if you're doing layers and layers of your vocals to maybe add a gang vocal sound, or maybe just like a big chorus vocal with lots of harmonies, you don't want to stand back if you want it to sound like it's in a room. The best way to do it is to record it close and then add a room sounding reverb to it afterwards, because you just have a lot more of that control. However, do take note that if you are in a nice sounding room, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but just make sure the room is treated nicely so that you don't have any of those unwanted sounds. And I guess the bonus bit of advice is that every voice is going to be different. If you're working with lots of different voices and you're a producer, or if you're producing your vocal yourself and you're using lots of different microphones, all of these factors will create a slightly different sound. So you need to experiment with different microphones, experiment with different rooms, different setups, and eventually you'll just find the sound that you really like. But it's really important to know that there are different techniques like being close, being far away. All of these things really play into the sound of your vocal, and if it doesn't sound good, if you're not happy with your vocal sound, it probably isn't the mix, it probably isn't anything to do with the reverb. If it sounds bad to begin with, then all of the reverbs and delays and all of the effects you're going to add on afterwards are just going to amplify all of those unwanted sounds. Now, what I recommend personally when I'm telling people at home how to be recording if we're working remotely is I tend to use this kind of L-shaped figure, and I put my lips up to my thumb, and that's the distance I think is personally generally really good. If we're going to generalize all productions, that is how I do it. That is how I do it. So you want to be that far away from your microphone when you're singing. Now, the reason I say that is because sometimes you'll be slightly closer and sometimes you'll be slightly further back, because if you're performing, you're naturally going to be moving around a little bit anyway. So don't feel like you've got to be really rigid. You know, the performance is super important amongst all of this. But that is personally, I think, a really good starting point. As to the distance you pretty much should be from your microphone. What you can also consider this is that where your thumb is, if the microphone's here, where your thumb is, that's where your pop shield is going to be. If your pop shield is there, you don't want to be another distance away from your microphone. You want to be pretty close to that pop shield. So make sure that your mouth and the microphone is that distance, and the pop shield should go somewhere in the middle, preferably closer to your mouth. So consider those few things as well. I hope those quick tips are useful. Like I say, these are just ways and approaches that I speak with clients and artists. So if you have any other techniques that you've found have really helped you, or any products or any makeshift home DIY additions to your studio setup, then do let us know down in the comments below. I know there are so many people doing this in so many different types of ways, so I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. This is just my sort of a voice and opinion on those sort of things. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. I hope this has been helpful. Keep making music in these weird and unfortunate times during lockdown. I hope 2021 is going to be much better for you. I want to let you guys know that The Efficient Musician is our first course that is out now. And if you're an independent musician trying to get better at scheduling and time management, getting better jobs in, being more professional, and finding more time to be a full-time musician, it's exactly what I did in building this bus and traveling on the road. I needed to balance traveling, running a business, and being creative all at the same time. And there's quite a few things I changed to my life that I share with you in this course. So it's now available if you're interested, if you're an independent musician. There's a private Facebook group with people that are in the course, and so many other benefits to working through this. So I can guarantee to you People have already had a great benefit and some of the results have been amazing. But if you want to go really deep into that, the course is now available, so I'll leave that in the description below. Guys, take care, stay safe, look after each other, and remember, never stop creating.
Take it back a century and figure it out. These are our goals that nobody knows.